there. Looks like fly. Everything is live. Oh, I have one more. We could have gone live on this too. That's okay.
It's fun.
Gotta let me see what's happening. That one might be because it's Soul Sisters, and I believe that's connected to my other page. Hi, everybody.
Hello, good afternoon.
And I'm still here. Like, why don't you ever let the people see me?
I tried to. Yeah, look. There we go. They seen you last week. They said you do exist.
James is hiding
They
me.
said you do exist.
I do exist.
You do. Well, your preview was on the page before. You always share it to my page, so they know you exist. You do all the intros, so. Happy Mental Health Awareness Month, everyone.
Or hairless.
Hairless Mental Health Awareness Month.
What's up, everybody? I met one of my old friends at Starbucks was at the counter, so I ended up with a big giant Starbucks, so there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's
so
good.
Hi, James Witherspoon.
Hello.
Glad to be here with you.
Yep.
Ready to do some heavy lifting on the 12 steps of recovery. I'm going to change
Midweek
this.
vibes, and I will say this is for entertainment purposes only. We are therapists, but we are not your therapist. So if anything that you hear today piques your interest or makes you think about some things, we suggest you find a therapist for you. We are available, though. If you need us, we are available for work. So, but this is just entertainment purposes only, and for insightful information.
Education and
purposes
entertainment.
only, yes.
Because we love
It's our entertainment, your education.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. So what's our topic today, sir?
The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're going to be talking about the 12 steps from different perspectives. So you're going to get some different perspectives here. But that's what we do.
What's your experience with 12 steps? Like, you were trying to tell me something
Oh,
before
yeah.
I shut you down.
Yeah, I started running off out the mouth before the cameras came on. But, no, we was talking, and I heard you in your intro say that earlier today when you was reminding everybody about the podcast that you don't believe in people saying they're an alcoholic like every day of their lives. And I was saying that over the years, my perspectives of AA has changed. And I wouldn't say in a bad way. I absolutely needed everything I needed at the time to stay sober. And so I believed in those things, and it saved my life. But as time has went on, and I still believe everybody can benefit from working the steps. Everyone in life. And you can also plug in whatever it is you're addicted to or dealing with, and I think it'll work. I think it's great. But, I do not agree. I don't believe you have to go to meetings every day now like I used to, or because I went, and I have this saying, and I've stuck with it, that I went to AA to save my life, not live my life for AA. And so it helped me and tremendously and saved my life. But your recovery should be evolving and not just stagnant. And I think some of the viewpoints and things said in AA keeps you stagnant. And so, yeah, but the steps are wonderful. I believe in the steps.
So what do you think made you change your mind? Because you actually became a practitioner and you see some of the psychology behind. Do you see the dents in AA 12 steps?
Well, I will say this. I'll say that.
Or is it because you evolved in
my recovery? Yeah, it was twofold. Yeah, it was twofold. Like I evolved in my own recovery because I wanted to do different things and not just stay in the same space. And then some of the members in AA is what also changed my mind because I've known people in there for 20 years and they're saying if you don't go to a meeting every day, you're going to relapse. I had somebody tell me one time that I was drinking Monsters alcoholically and that if I kept drinking Monsters like that, I would relapse. There's just certain negative condensations that are used that shouldn't be. And I'm all about uplifting, encouraging, and building, not, tearing down. And so when you hear those things, you could discourage somebody. I even wrote a paper in college, AA versus NA, and there is a huge thing in the community where AA goes against NA go, we're better. And I've had people, I did a lead one time in NA meeting, which is a Narcotics Anonymous, and I mentioned alcohol. Well, a guy he pulled me aside after the meeting and said, hey, we don't mention that in here.
Wait, you were not allowed to mention alcohol in an NA meeting?
In an NA meeting. In my lead, I mentioned that I'm an alcoholic. And I continued with it and did it. And then when I got done, came outside, the guy pulled me aside and he said, hey, we don't mention alcohol in here. That's not what we do. And I said, I mention alcohol anywhere I go because I'm an alcoholic. So if you didn't want me to speak, you shouldn't have asked me. But I'm going to say I'm an alcoholic.
I love that about you, James.
It's like, and I also...
Tell it like it is.
Yeah, but in the paper for college, I wrote, the 12 steps are going to kill people with that ideology. Because if I come into a meeting, an NA meeting or an AA meeting, and say the opposite of what you want me to say, you'll ask me to leave? Now you just might have killed me. Because I'm going to go out there and drink, I'm going to go out there and drug, and I might be dead tonight. That's not what I'm about. And I don't believe in that. I believe it doesn't matter what your drug is. You deserve help, and you should be here. Obviously, you walk through that door for a reason. So those are just some of the things along the way that kind of got in, under my skin or really started making me say, well, I'm involved and I'm going a different direction. But I recommend it to my newcomers because I needed it back then. But and I always tell them, make sure that you're evolving in your recovery, though. You don't want to stay in the same plot. You don't want to go to meetings for 20 years every day. I'm just saying that's just me. I don't know.
I was with a very dear friend of mine who was in recovery. God, I don't even know how long he was in recovery. And we were up in Geneva on the lake in Cleveland with our families. And we were literally lakeside, just chilling, walking around, doing the thing with the kids. And at some point in the day, he was like, we were climbing on rocks by the beach. Hey, I got to get home to my home group. And I'm like,
yeah.
Isn't this recovery? Like, what are you talking about? You got to get home to your home group. But
yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Whatever, man. And then I really started poking at him after that happened. Because I was like, so what happens if you don't go to your group? Like, do you fall off the wagon? You've been sober for 12 years? Like, seriously, what happens? Like, I'm sorry, but if you're addicted... Are you addicted to AA? I feel like some people get addicted to AA.
I do too.
Yeah.
You replace it for one for another.
And I had a woman when I was over at Dublin Springs, working over at Dublin Springs. She literally fell on the ground and was crying and holding onto my legs and saying, Virginia, you mean I don't have to go to AA? I can do recovery a different way. And we were talking about SMART and Buddhist recovery and celebrate. I think that day I was talking about all the different ways people can get into group work.
Yeah. Because
group work, we agree, is important. Like, if you're in early recovery, your community is what's going to save you. And especially... like mental health, if you find yourself alone all the time, community is the key to getting your life back, building relationships, reconnecting with old friends, water under the bridge with family if it's safe, but if they're toxic, keep them away. That's okay. Just create a new family through your friends. But yeah, and then there was another, I could tell you, another doctor at a different hospital that I was working at was like, the folks in the hospital were like, we don't want to go to AA meetings, and there were just a handful of them, and I was like, well, we can't force you to go to AA meetings, but I would like to see you go to some sort of group so we can get another bus and get you guys to a different group. There's options. And then the doctor did not allow me to be near the patients because I was dangerous to the milieu, And I was like,
Wow.
I quit.
Yeah. Wow.
Bye. So he was also in, well, it doesn't matter, but AA and recovery, going to meetings every single day. For me, a big part of recovery is go do what makes sense. Anything can be recovery. Having dinner every Sunday with your family can be recovery. It's getting on a schedule, maintaining a schedule. It's group work, it's therapy work, it's IOP, PHP work. It's building your community. It's going to a gym. It's spending time with your kids, going to a park, hugging a few trees, staring at the stars. Whatever keeps you healthy and happy, that's what you should do. And here's where the twist in today's Live at 5 is that, or midweek 5. But the twist in today for me is that I want to talk about the AA, the 12 steps, for those of you that are trying to get into recovery and figure this whole thing out. But also, this applies across the board, I think.
Absolutely.
I think that finding connections, getting in with communities, if you're really interested in, like, the foundation of my recovery program is Rat Park, which is everything you ever thought you knew about addiction is wrong. There's a video on YouTube. And there's books on community being the key. It's a Portugal study that is actually ongoing where they legalized all drugs. So, building your community. And so 12 steps, we're going to go through the 12 steps. This may take more than one day, but we're going to start from the beginning, step 1, and go through the 12 steps and just kind of break it down. And James is going to go through the AA angle, and I'm going to go through the rest of life, mental health, domestic violence, trauma bonding, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Fair?
Just before I say I agree with you on the, and one thing I tell all my guys and gals in recovery, and there's one absolute that you need in your recovery, and I won't take no for an answer, and that's a support system. You absolutely need it. Whatever route you're going to go.
I concur.
Whatever route you're going to go,
You
smart,
can't do this alone.
AA, you cannot do it alone. Trust me, I've tried many, many times to do it alone with all failure. And until I was able to, and that'll segue me right into step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. And
Can I write on this?
Sure.
Okay.
And I never could get over the admitting part. I was in total denial about who I was, my alcoholism, and I never wanted to admit that I was an alcoholic. I thought everything was fine in my life, as much as I burnt it down and tore it apart. In my mind, everything was good. Everything was fine. And so that's why I could never get over the hump or ever recover. But, you know, that last time I had to admit, yeah, this is defeating me. And then when you admit it, I think the second most important word in that to me is unmanageable. Once I admitted it, then I was able to take a look at how really my life was unmanageable. And not just, down to the everything in my life, not just the obvious like a DUI or going to jail or things like that. Just my day-to-day living, being able to hold a job, being able to earn money, just get up in the morning sometimes. You have to really, it goes down so far that you really have to take a look at it and be honest with yourself.
And then it can go deeper.
It can go deep. It always goes deeper.
The rabbit hole.
Yeah, it definitely is. But we just can't look at those surface level things. When we really get into our recovery and you start digging deep, that's when the real recovery begins. Putting down alcohol is the easy part, or the drugs, or whatever you're doing. That's the easy part. Looking in the mirror and saying, I got work to do. That's the hard part.
And then doing the work.
Doing the
and
work.
not being afraid to do the work.
Yeah.
And taking ownership of all of it, the whole entire story, the whole entire truth.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to take it from a little bit of a different angle. We admit that we are powerless over alcohol. So I switched that to we're powerless over our addiction. But the thing that's always been stuck in my craw with the first step is we are powerless. Because even in okay, so I had addiction to a human, not chemicals. So I had the power to walk away the entire 7 years. But why don't we walk away? Because we use when we're happy, we use when we're not happy, we use when we're boating, when we're bowling, when we're at a birthday party, we use when we're in our darkest moments in the bottom of the rabbit hole. And so when we talk about powerless, we have power. So that messed with me for a long time. We are not powerless. It's just that sometimes we don't even realize we have addiction. I met with someone recently. They're like, multiple people in my career, and they say, yeah, but. I'm like, okay, can you quit for 30 days? Well, let me think about that. Is there anything I have to drink at?
It's a good rule.
It's the first answer, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything I have to drink at? I said, okay, how about, can I get 7 from you? Well, I don't know. I think there is a graduation this weekend. Okay.
So true.
So you're asking me, do you have addiction? And so as you're trying to figure out your recovery, as you're trying to figure out, like, do I have a problem? That's step number 1. If you're questioning it, the likelihood that you have something going on is pretty good, pretty high.
Pretty high.
And you don't have to use every single day to have addiction. Binge drinking is just as bad.
Yep.
Binge using food, binging and purging, restricting food, binge loving somebody. I've had women that the boyfriend lives 2 hours away. They come in town, do all the things. Here's your flowers. Here's your fancy dinner. Do a little romp in the hay. See you when I see you. And they know it's going to hurt every single time, because then you're Jeff to the left and he dusts you. And it's like, how many times do you do this before you finally realize that maybe this isn't a good idea? Friends with benefits is a lie. That is not a thing.
Somebody always has
Stop
feelings.
doing that.
Somebody always comes up with feelings.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Always, 100% of the time.
Always.
So
Can I touch base on that powerless?
Yeah.
So I just want to say, and I agree with a lot everything you said. For me, the moment of powerless came. I remember when I was about to go into treatment last time, and I was calling them, and they said they didn't have a bed available. So after 3 or 4 days of this, they still didn't have a bed. They didn't have a bed. I got really pissed, and I was like, I don't need anybody to stop drinking. I'm getting up tomorrow. I'm going to find a job. I'll never drink it again, and I'm changing my life. I don't need anybody. I passed out that night.
of course you did.
I woke up, and the first thing I did was walk to the refrigerator and crack a beer. And now they say you have aha moments in recovery. And that was my first aha moment before I ever got in recovery, because I recognized that right then and there that I don't control this. And I haven't had control of this for a very long time.
Man.
So I was powerless.
My moment
that
of
point.
not control. Do you know what was happening?
What?
Let me tell you what. Let me paint this picture.
So that's powerless to me.
I was powerless, and here's how I knew. And I think with a lot of us, there is a moment of clarity that you're like, oh, I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was, my person had sex addiction, and I didn't know this was going on for our entire relationship. So I looked at him one day after I discovered some things, a lot of things, and I was like, there were signs. And I was like, are you addicted to pornography? Is there anything you need to share with me? And I knew about the pornography, and I was like, you gotta cut, this is a deal breaker. We're not doing this. And then something else happened. I said, why do you know I'm going to leave? Why would you keep doing this? Well, in hindsight is 2020. I asked him, I said, why do you keep doing this to me? He said, because I know you'll never leave. Ooh. Dare me to do something. There's 100% chance I will do that thing. And that was the end of the end. I was like, oh my gosh, he really believes he can get away with this and I'll never stop it. And he did for 7 years. And so that was my bottom where I was like, I am powerless. I have been powerless, but now I'm going to take back my power. And I am calling a moving van today and walking out that door.
Yeah.
And I did. So.
And then at that moment, that's when you started really replaying and thinking about all the unmanageability.
Yep. Yeah, because it's not clear until you have that moment of clarity where
Right.
like you don't feel like you can go any further down the rabbit hole. What's interesting about the rabbit hole then though is damn that's dirty down there. And I didn't the work after getting out like my addiction was him, his addiction was sex. But the work getting out of that whole thing, that's a different rabbit hole. Like, oh my gosh, it forces you to reflect on yourself. It forces you to see your edges. It forces you to think about what did I miss here? How did this happen? And that goes with life. That goes with being trauma bonded. You're trauma bonded. I don't know if you all know what trauma bonded is. Maybe we'll do something like on that a different day. But you love to hate. You hate to love what you're involved in and your addiction. And the other thing I would say, we admitted we were powerless over, you said alcohol, I said addiction, that our lives have become unmanageable. All now a true statement for me. Because addiction is addiction is addiction. Like, it's a dopamine, serotonin conversation happening in your brain. I know my heroin was him. Right?
Yep.
And your heroin was alcohol. And kids' heroin nowadays is gaming. So addiction is addiction.
Phones.
And phones, yeah. Social media, news. I know y'all are watching that news like it's correct.
I'll tell you this, I love the conversations because I've had several conversations with people and they're like, yeah, I have no addictions, this and that. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not pushing addiction on you. I'm like, pull your phone out. They pulled their phone out. I said, go to the settings and check your screen time. 12 hours yesterday? My friend, that's an addiction. Anything you spend 12 hours on in a day, that's an addiction. You have to take a look at everything because for me, being the addict that I am, I will get addicted to anything. Trust me. And I have over the years shopping, money, things like that. And we have to do things in moderation. That's why I went to the casino a couple times up here, and I only take $25. When that's gone, I'm out of there because, I know I will blow the rent money. I can get addicted to anything. So, but that's not everybody's story. But I'm just saying certain things we have to look in our life, and if we're doing it in excess, maybe we need to take a look at it,
Well, and you bring up a good point because when I do family work, when the people with addiction and their families are with me, one of the first questions I ask is, okay, what's everybody's addiction? And the families inevitably look at me like I have two heads. I'm like, what's your addiction? No, we don't have it. It's them. Really? How much sugar do you eat? Do you drink coffee every morning? Do you? How many hours on your computer are you doing work every day?
Right.
So if you really look, asking someone to quit whatever thing, have you ever asked a victim to leave their domestic violent partner, their perpetrator? Good luck with that. They're not leaving until they're ready. So the only thing you can do is hold space for the person that has addiction to arrive at their bottom. Hold space, encourage, continuously say, I'm here for you. I'm going to love you through this the entire way. But also recognize that they're not the only ones. People that have addiction are surrounded by people that are potentially also sick. Not just having their own addiction, but codependency. Codependency can be addiction.
Oh, yes.
It's
Yes.
That was my thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge too. But it's a family disease. It's a family sickness. So.
Yeah.
And my battle cry throughout my addiction was, I ain't hurting nobody. I'm just doing it to myself. And everyone around me was affected, everyone. And it's not fair. It wasn't fair, so we definitely need to recognize that. It is a family disease, and friend disease, and co-worker disease, because when I'm drunk at work, I'm not my best. I'm drunk at a family barbecue getting the police called on me. They don't want that in it's everything. It surrounds us. So.
And one of the things I had to do in my master's program, we had to pick an addiction and we had to quit for 2 weeks, and we had to document everything, how our mood, our behavior, our cravings, our withdrawals, our triggers. I quit coffee. I'm addicted to coffee. I'll admit it. I have a cup every single morning. I can't wait to go to sleep at night so I can have my coffee in the morning. And try to quit. Like, try to think about what is your addiction and try to quit for 2 weeks and document the way you feel. So as we're telling people with addiction to quit, okay, it's not that simple. And if you try to quit your own addiction, you're going to understand a little bit about what that feels like to try to quit.
Great point.
It is hard.
It's hard. It is. But that's perfect that you say, like, quit for 30 days. Just see. If you're saying, no, I'm on my phone, it's not a problem, try putting it down for 30 days. Don't touch it. Do other things. Try to do constructive things and not touch that phone or look at social media and see how hard it is. It's hard.
I'm addicted to my work. And lately I've been trying not to be addicted to my work, and it's like I'm trying to be more productive and read more and play with the dog and walk and hang out with the kids. And it's hard. It is really hard.
And this is the thing. When people come in with alcohol or heroin or crack, it's easy for us as professionals to say, stop it. Put it down. You don't need that. But when we have people come into us that are dealing with eating disorders, sexual disorders, work addiction, we can't tell the person, stop eating, stop working, stop having sex. That's just not possible. Like, these are things that we have to do. So we have to build a plan to.
That's not unmanageable.
That's the unmanageable. So we have to build a plan for them to manage that and do things in moderation and what's healthy for them, right? But they can and we have to give them that their own what's healthy for them. But we guide and steer that ship, But it's hard, with those type of addictions, because you need those things in your life. Maslow's hierarchy of needs says we need these things in our life. And so we can't just say, stop eating. That's not possible. So we have to build a plan around how they can do it efficiently and healthy for themselves.
I just did that with someone. I'm like, okay, I run the risk of starting this whole relationship with food that maybe goes into an eating disorder that I don't want to do. So it's gently stepping into, what can I do different? How do I make this different?
Yeah, and healthy.
Want to move on to 2?
2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Some heavy words in there.
A lot of people hear God in those words.
They do.
So let's have the God conversation. Because we always do. As recovery specialists, we have to have the God conversation.
Yep.
Hit me.
All right. Yeah. So, in AA, and AA is not a religious program, contrary to what people might say. And most of the time I hear from the people that don't believe in AA anyway, or don't buy into what that they can get recovery there. So that's their excuse to get out. It's a religious program. It's absolutely not. A power greater than yourself, and it's something that you believe in that is greater than you. For the longest time, I was my own God, right? So I made the decisions. I ruled the world, and everybody better step out of the way. But getting in recovery, we have to believe in something that's greater than ourselves that can help us stay sober. And, if you have no belief, we use good, orderly direction and doing the next right thing. And so we believe that if you do the next right thing, use good, orderly direction, good things come to you. And it's a spiritual program. You have to get to a place what you believe in. In AA, you can form your own God. You can, whatever that may look like to you. Doesn't have to be, Jesus on a painting or whatever. But as long as it's something greater than yourself, that can help you stay sober. And don't make this your God, your microphone, because I can break it. So they always tell you, don't make a doorknob or a woman your higher power, because then she'll leave you, or, you know, so it's got to be something, you know, greater than yourself to help you stay sober. And it's a spiritual program, not a God or religious program. So, and that's where the lines get drawn.
Yeah. There's a great book by Carolyn Miss. It's called Sacred Contracts. And she, sometime in her life, she's a PhD now, I think she's a social worker foundation. But she went across the world and was doing this research for what is God? What is this thing that everybody talks about? Higher power, source, universe, little green man, whatever it is. And she determined that for her, in her work, it was God. But she, more importantly, across the globe, most tribes and tongues believe in something. There is something going on here, because when you dissect it, like, we had to have come from somewhere. Something started this, whether it's Big Bang or Adam and Eve, which is another topic. Can't have been two people that got us here, because who? Okay, so anyway, there's something wrong with that story, but something got us all here, and there's something always at the end of the day that when you've got no place else to turn, what is that thing where you just dig the deepest into soul you, like, come on, man. You know,
Right.
I've had multiple FU conversations with God, and He still loves me.
Absolutely.
You know, especially in addiction recovery, and when you're just hitting walls. So there's something going on here, and even if it's just source, your center, and you're like, okay, I can pull my bootstraps up, and I can figure this thing out, and I'm going to do the next right thing.
Mm-hmm.
If that's it, that's enough. But there is something going on here, and I think that AA is not a God program, although this third step says God right in it.
Yep.
But I don't want that to turn people off from doing recovery using AA or celebration recovery or anything, because at the end of the day, something is going on here, and you don't have to believe us. That's not our goal, to push that agenda.
No.
And I said that yesterday.
And I respect everybody's belief system.
Yeah.
Like in recovery, and I don't discriminate about anything. What your belief, if it's working for you, I love it. I love that it's working for you. I respect your belief system.
I don't know why that thumbs down.
They keep giving us thumbs down.
I know.
It's
What's
okay.
up, you guys? We're really good at this.
We can't please everyone. That's okay. You know, and that's why there is a lot of controversy with.
I think that's us doing this.
Is it?
Somewhere.
No, I think there's somebody doing that.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
But yeah, and if you don't believe in something, and the atheist, or we're worm food when we go out of this earth, cool. Whatever. We're on board for all of it. It's not our job to judge when you guys are doing the work. So whatever works for you, that's what we're going to show up for.
Absolutely.
But so far as the AA and the 12 steps, maybe just consider, like, what if we're right? What if all of this does come from something
Exactly.
bigger than us?
Exactly. And God's a touchy subject with a lot. It's like politics. It's like God. You know, those are things that you gotta tread lightly. And I never, even when I'm with a client, I don't ever talk religion. If they bring it up, then I will tread lightly and talk about it.
Oh man, I'm different.
Because it's something that they want to talk about, but I'll never start that conversation, you know, because especially when you build a rapport and stuff like that.
I'll talk about it all
Okay.
the time. Nothing's off limits. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, number 3.
Wait. We got to touch the biggest word in the sentence, and I'm gonna let you start with that. Sanity. What is sanity? They'll say. It's going to restore me to sanity?
Can you believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity? So if I were an AA person and I'm at an AA group and I'm hearing that, but see, I'm me and I'm a trained therapist, so if someone were to come to me and say, walk me through the second step, Virginia, I'm going to do restore us to our sanity. So addiction is the thing of, what's the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So if you keep doing something that you know is causing you to be sick, breaking down your life, helping you lose your job, helping you lose your family, and it doesn't matter how many people have told you or how many signs from the universe are saying, stop doing that thing, that's a deal breaker, you're going to hurt yourself. It's like, here's a brick wall. And the universe is like, I'm going to throw a brick at your head and see how you do with that information. Right?
Right.
And then you're like, okay. Okay, I'm going to throw 2 bricks at your head and see what you do with that information. And every time you ignore it, it gets a little more painful and a little more painful until the entire brick wall comes down on your head. So restoring yourself to sanity is giving up. I relent, I give, cry uncle, I can't do this anymore. And so you can do that. There's 2 ways to do recovery. The right way and the wrong way. Mm-hmm. You can keep doing what you're doing and stay sick for as long as... See, I told you it's me.
No.
Yes?
Somebody liked what you said.
No, I don't believe it.
I think they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
See?
Is somebody talking to us?
Oh, never. I don't know.
Okay.
No.
Well, anyway, somebody's talking to us on yours. Oh, I see me on yours.
I told you was
Look
on there.
at us.
Yeah. But, yeah, sanity is restoring me to my life, getting my life back and being productive.
That's
being
where I was headed with that.
Yeah. Being a good father, being a good, all those things, employer and all those things. But I like what you said, but my insanity was I was doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same results because I knew exactly what was going to happen when I did these things, but I continued to do them.
But you can't
I didn't even
stop.
expect it no more.
The crazy part is you can't stop.
No.
I
couldn't stop.
Man, I had to go 0 contact because if I saw his name on my phone, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God, hello, heroin. How you doing?
Yeah. And, sanity is what you make it. It's going to be what you want your life to look like. And everybody's is different, right? And so restoring us to our sanity is, I was told in AA, man, and it was really great. They told me, pick a sponsor that has everything you want, And so when I talk to, people in the AA meetings and I seen somebody that, that had the things I wanted, house, car, family back, kids, all those things. Nobody likes it, but kids. And so they say, pick the person that has the things you want. And those things that I wanted at that time in early recovery was my sanity. That's how I would be sane. And so, I set out to achieve those things in my recovery. And 15 years later, I've almost achieved them all. So.
In my insanity, the only thing I could do was work. And somehow, magically, I still showed up as the therapist I am. I mean, I'm an improved therapist. But I somehow was able to do my job, but I isolated for a year. I read a lot of books. I cried a lot. I was angry at God and the world. I lost a lot of relationships in that time because they could see what I couldn't see. And that's the insanity, is all the things that you lose in your using behavior. But the cool part is that when you get in recovery and when you start to see the light, you evolve into a person that you never thought possible. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, so the insanity part, returning to sanity, is I got my life back and I'm better than I've ever been.
Absolutely.
Like, God does, I'm a higher power source, little green man, whatever. For me, it's God, and it's miraculous, like your recovery and where you're at right now. The people we've seen get into recovery and become counselors or go on to get another degree or just get their kids back. I mean, that's getting your sanity back, is getting your life back. It's community, it's your life, it's your family, it's that.
Absolutely.
For me.
Absolutely. And one of the most rewarding things in this whole thing is doing the exact, like you just said, seeing them get these things back, man, and get their life back, and just be happy. And when they first come in, they're frowned, they're beat up, they're worn, and when they walk out, however much time later, smiling and coming back or calling you saying, James, I seen my kids this weekend, man, it was awesome. Or I got this job, I just got this job, my dream job. And there's nothing like it. Yes, everybody has to work for a check, but this is just so much more than that. It's so much.
Did you ever imagine you'd be here?
No. I tell them all the time. I even told my boss, like, I can't believe you pay me for this. Like, I come to work and talk shit. Like, I can't believe, like, you pay me for this. Like, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. I love what I do. I would do it for free if I was a millionaire.
Yeah,
I would.
Well,
I have done it. Yeah.
We do free stuff all the time.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've done it free for sure.
All right. Do you want to move on to 3?
All right. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. I think the big thing for me, and this was one of the biggest words for me in recovery, our will. I didn't know what that was. I was like, our will? What is my will? What am I supposed to, what do you mean? I understood like our lives, right? I understood like I would have to, in order to change the way I was, I would have to turn my life over to that. But my will is something that I didn't understand. And it was heavy. It was heavy. And then there's that God work again, right? There's that God word. So that trips some people up too, but but the key in that too is as we understood Him. So that gives you the choice of getting your own understanding of God and doing your own studying and what works for you best. So
okay, so story time.
How about our will? Okay, go ahead, story time.
Story time.
Story time.
Do you know I had a near-death experience?
Mm-mm.
I didn't ever tell you that. Okay, so 3 years ago,
during your trials and tribulations, we didn't speak that much. That was probably the longest we hadn't spoke.
That is so true.
It is.
I have thought about that before.
I came to the house where you had the recovery house over there. I came there and we was working, and then shortly after that, it started happening, right? And then I didn't speak to you at that point.
Man.
For a while.
See, you're one of the people who was like the fallout from
You isolated from me too, yeah.
I did.
That was the longest we hadn't spoke.
I turned the world off. I didn't want because I couldn't make sense of what had happened to me. So and
it's embarrassing and ego and pride. There's a lot of things involved.
I don't think it was sadness. It was despair. It was. I don't think I felt. I was blaming myself. Mm-hmm. Because I had kids in tow. Absolutely. It wasn't just me that I had done this to. This decision I made, like, I chose him, and he did what he did, and I chose to keep going back and keep getting whatever. Yeah. Okay, so in my recovery, there was a night, and I've alluded to I had a near-death experience. So 3-ish years ago, I decided one night I'm just going to cry this out and feel all the feelings from my addiction. And so I did, and I had my journal and my calendar and a fluffy rug. I was laying on the floor. I was all sprawled out on my pillows, and I'm just going to cry it out and let me have it. And I ended up giving myself a heart attack because that's, I guess, how hard I needed to grieve this. And we're talking about free will still. So the doctors at the hospital, I ended up in the hospital for 3 days, and they said I had broken heart syndrome. So I'm like, damn, I didn't even know that could happen. So, but in my near-death experience, I saw hell. I was saying goodbye to him, and then I went into hell. This is my opinion.
Your experience.
Yeah. So hell is not a place that is like God's going to send you to hell. Hell is what we create for ourselves. So my dark night of the soul, my hell, was experiencing that relationship and then trying to crawl out of the rabbit hole. So your hell was however many years of addiction, it taking you down and then trying to crawl out of the rabbit hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw hell in my near-death experience, at the time I did not know that I was on the verge of death. I had no idea. I thought I was dreaming, but at the same time I remember saying, wait, am I in hell? This can't be right. Like, I've done some shitty things in my life, but I don't deserve this.
Right.
And it was awful. It was so awful. And I heard something, some angel? I don't think it was God, but I heard something say, well, you have free will. And I was like, what? So I shouldn't be here? I don't have to stay? And they were like, no, you have free will. So I was like, okay, so how do I get out of here? And they said, just get out. It was that simple. God, it was that simple. So I was like, okay. And I instantly woke up. And I was on the floor still. And I was like, whew, I'm alive. Everything's okay. And I crawled back into bed. And I thought I was just dreaming again. I did not know that I was having a heart attack and dying. But then I saw my life, and it was all the things I'd ever experienced. And then I saw everybody in the whole world, and everything was all one, and the energy was just the collective. It was just all one. And then I heard God say, so do you get it now? And then I was like, yeah, let's do that again. I couldn't wait to come back here and do Earth University. And then I saw what was the opening to heaven, and I was like, that's where we're going next, people.
Right.
Again, I did not know I was dying. So I'm going in that direction, and two angels came over me, and they were like, whoa there, sister. You can go in there. You have free will. But what about Christian and Colton down there on Earth? What about them? Because I had completely... I was just a soul floating around doing the things in a near-death experience. I totally didn't even think I've got kids down here. But as soon as they said Christian and Colton, I woke up again and I called 911, and that's when I ended up in the hospital for 3 days. So
Powerful.
Yes.
Powerful.
Like, how lucky was I to realize from a very God, heaven, hell level, like, you have free will. One of the hardest things you'll ever do is walk away from your addiction. And something so seemingly impossible is also what we perceive as just leave. Just walk away. Just stop. Just quit. Because if I were you, I would.
Right. Yeah.
Sure you
From those that don't have a drinking problem.
Quit your addiction
stop.
for 30 days.
Yeah,
just stop.
Just stop, man.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's free will. Made a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as we understood Him. And that was my year of isolation. I was like, you know what? This is way fucking too much for me. I cannot do this thing. You take it.
Yeah.
And that was it. I handed it over because I didn't have any answers. Nothing made sense. Ironically, though, I was still a badass therapist.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. That's deep. And you know, my best decisions got me drunk and divorced and in jail and homeless and broke.
I love it when you talk about
You know,
your stuff, man.
my best decisions, my will was running riot. Like, you know, so yeah, I had to, and I will say, you know, when it's AA too, you have to, you know, that's when I depended on the guys in AA. You know, I say it all the time. I come in a little child. Yeah, I was 44 years old when I got sober and hit my AA meeting. But I was a 12-year-old, to be honest. I was just a little boy inside a man's body, trying to figure out how to live. And some great men in AA taught me how to live. They took me under their wing and they taught me what was given to them. And I see Mike on the listening. Mike,
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. Mike was one of those men. You know, it was great. You know what I mean? So, like, but you learn, from the people that come before you, and you pass it on, and that's how you stay sober. But I didn't know anything. My will was just run riot, and I was 18 my whole life, and
just keep going, just keep going, just
insanity,
keep going.
the insanity of it all. And so, yeah, I appreciate every person that helped me along the way, and that's why I said a non-negotiable is that support system. You have to have that support system in place, and for me, it was the guys in AA and early on to teach me.
We have 10 minutes. You want to do one more?
Yep. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves.
Okay, so everybody, help me understand this one, because everybody gets stuck on 4. What is the expectation? What are you supposed to do with 4?
You make an inventory of yourself.
Walk me through it. What's it mean?
Basically, you go through your life and you write down all the things that you've done, right? All the things, the people you've done them to, the things you've done, and we're trying to.
Does that include things that happened for you or to you?
Yes,
or
everything.
Is it just all the bullshit you did to other people?
Just
so it's basically
everything.
a timeline.
It's everything. So, like, remember we talked about that backpack and we put that stuff in, and we're carrying that stuff, the weight of the world?
Yeah.
This is the step we get that weight of the world off of us.
So it's things that people did to you.
And you did to them.
In your life, and your response or reaction, and what you did to other people.
Correct. And in this, you're also making a list of people that maybe, and later on in the steps, you're going to make an amends to. So, basically, this is how
There is no amount of
mirror.
money on the planet you could ever convince me to go make amends with my addiction.
Well,
there is no mountain of gold tall enough.
Well, this is your addiction happens to be a person, so that's tough. But you at some point you might want to think about it.
No, I haven't thought about it. I'm pretty sure he is never invited on the island.
Oh, right. I wouldn't invite him on the island. But
he's about to therapize me.
No. I'm just saying. You have to look at it as you played a part.
I did. Yeah. I sure did.
So yeah. That's it. Leave it there. He's not on the island, but at some point, you never know. But this is just.
Why do people get stuck on this though? Because I have people do
tough.
timelines all the time.
It's tough.
But what makes it tough?
It's tough to write down things you've done to others.
Okay, something comes to mind, especially with addiction, people would never think that they would shoot up heroin or prostitute themselves
Absolutely.
for drugs.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there are things I understand. It's starting. The wheels are turning now.
In my addiction, I'm drinking and I'm cheating. I don't care.
Yeah.
My mind is doing what I want to do, how I want to do it. But when I got sober, it's like, wow, I hurt a lot of people. Or, wow, I didn't spend time with my kids. Or, wow, I hurt my mother. These things come crashing on you. You start really understanding, and that goes back to the unmanageability part. When I didn't understand, I didn't understand my unmanageability, and we tie that into that moral inventory, and how that all plays a part, and who all I've hurt, man.
Do you know what?
And how all I've been hurt. Because trust me, I'm not blaming anything for my addiction. I totally made the choice, and I totally continued to use. But there was signs, and their parts was played in that. There was a lot of things done to me. I went through a lot of trauma in my childhood that I was never able to process or had a therapist to talk to or knew about any of these things. Because back in the 60s and 70s when I was a child, there was no resources. Mm-hmm. There was no things like we have now. Mental health wasn't even spoken of. And, and my dad's gone, God rest his soul, R.I.P., but I'm pretty sure, knowing what I know now and being who I am, he had some mental health issues too that was unaddressed. So for him, and now I can kind of understand why he did the things he did and treated us the way he did. But at the same time, I got my own shit, And all that plays a part. All the things I've done as a child and all those things. Everything is in this inventory that I need to get out of me, that I've never got to get out of me. And up until this point, when I got an AA, I hadn't seen a therapist. I still didn't know about therapy. All I knew is I went to 30-day treatment. Boom, go to AA. That was the suggestion. Get a sponsor, do the steps, and that's what I did. And so this was really my first introduction to this. And my inventory was about that big. And we went out to eat, me and my sponsor, and I dumped all this stuff on him. And I told him things that still to this day only a few people know. But I dumped the stuff out. And man, and he told me, go home, don't turn on the TV, don't do anything, relax, set in what you just did. Understand what you just did, silence, and just sit with yourself and understand it. And man, that night I went to sleep like a baby, and I promise you, I swear on everything, I woke up the next day and felt like a new man. I was like, I got this.
You unpacked a lot.
I unpacked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I felt 10 pounds lighter, and I felt like a new man because I wasn't holding all them secrets anymore. I wasn't holding all them.
The secret. You have always said you're as sick as your secrets.
Sick as your secret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we intend to keep secrets, because now I'm understanding now this moral inventory, because I'm like, when did I go through a moral inventory? I must have. And I think that a lot of these things, this is like a natural thing. You're going to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
I think without AA telling you that you're going to take a moral inventory, because you have to look back and think, how did I get here? How did this happen? What did I do? How did I help this happen?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of dissociation when you're in active addiction. You do things, you had battles everywhere in your house and you don't remember doing it.
Yep.
There are things that happen there will be things that happen that you're just, it's just Tuesday. But when you look back on it, it's like, holy shit, what was I thinking? So there's a lot of dissociation, and in active addiction, but also in recovery, trying to remember all the things, that needs your help. So as you're opening up Pandora's box and you're looking for the backpack and you're rifling through all the things that happened to you, how you got here, how you contributed to the breakdown of your life, things are going to come up that you did not even remember or know existed as a part of the sick part of you, the ill part of you, the insanity part of you. And that's not to be scary, because ironically, the thing that makes you well is facing those edges of you, that the things that brought you to this place in the first place.
Absolutely.
All the internal parts of you that said, it's okay, close your eyes, I'll take care of this part. It's going to be hard for you right now. Prostitution, shooting up, all the decisions you make, taking him back another time and another time and another time, 12 times.
Yeah.
Takes to leave your perpetrator. So women that are watching that are in domestic violence situations, it's an average of 12. So which number are you on? Yeah. You'll get there eventually. Yeah. Okay, now
and what you said, when I walked in the treatment center for the last time, and I was in the lobby, I was sitting there and I said, how did I get here again? How did I get here again at this age?
Yeah.
And number 4 answered it for me. It told me how. It explained everything to me. When I started chronologically writing my life down and all the things I've been through up until adulthood, and then all the things that I did, and making that list of those people that I really needed to make amends to.
So I flip this on its head, because I'm an addiction specialist, but I'm also a trauma mental health specialist. And I would say I do a timeline, and I just walk people 0 to now, tell me about your life, and I want to see points on a timeline, the good stuff, the bad stuff, the stuff that you did, the hard stuff that happened to you, and then we unpack it from there. And a timeline can be really, really easy, but I would spend time with that over a week. How long did it take you to do the step 4?
I would say
It's never fast for anybody I've ever met.
No. I would say probably the first time I did it, probably 2 to 3 months. And then, but I've worked.
It's a months-long process.
Yeah, I've worked them several times. So obviously I didn't get everything in that first because I was so eager and anxious to get it all out. And so there was a lot that, and then you also, as you go through, you can work steps on anything, like we're talking about. I worked them on my alcoholism. Now I got to work them on my, phone addiction or my gambling addiction or, there's many different facets, but you can work them on everything and continue to work them. So, yeah. But I also recommend working on it with a sponsor. Get yourself a sponsor, support person, whatever you do, because I've had people come to me and say, yeah, I worked the steps myself. I'm like, how honest was you with yourself?
Right, right.
Part of it is
accountability.
Fearless moral inventory, and that takes another person to be able to bring that out and say, hey, this is what I've done. Because, I do stand by we're only sick as our secret. So,
as therapists, I feel like our first job is detectives. So I'm going to hit you with a whole lot of questions. And when you're telling me your story, I'm going to say, whoop, right there, pause right there. Let's say more about that. Let's sit in that for a minute. So, you really need to do this work with somebody. And if not a support person or a sponsor, then a professional, a good professional that knows what the heck they're doing.
Absolutely.
Someone seasoned, folks. I love you guys, the newcomers to the industry, the MSWs, fresh out of college. Love you, but you really need to be partnered with a supervisor and get a little more life experience. My favorite place for MSWs to start is in treatment facilities because it's baptism by fire. Like, you're going in and you're getting it done today. What training?
Yeah, right.
Life training is what's going to teach you how to be a clinician.
Go right in there and run that group. What?
Yeah.
Here's your topic.
Yeah. And you're going to hear 20 new stories a day.
Yeah.
And so the more seasoned and the more exposure you get to this industry, the better the therapist you are. So final thoughts on the first 4 steps in AA and recovery.
First 4 is the foundation. That's the foundation, the admitting, believing it's unmanageable, finding yourself a higher power, and making that inventory. That's the foundation. The rest will fall in the line.
That made me dizzy just now, not gonna lie.
What?
I think I'm having flashbacks and I'm being triggered, James.
Hey, listen, you have grown because years ago you wouldn't even have this conversation with me.
I know.
No,
I know.
Absolutely not.
I had to go through addiction myself to
did.
understand it.
You did.
At this level, truly.
At this level, yes.
I'm a better therapist, you guys.
Absolutely, because years ago, absolutely not. You wouldn't have had that with me. Yeah.
So my final thought on this is, I like to see this as we are all in the recovery process. We're butterflies. We're the little worm and the little caterpillar. Caterpillar is what my kids used to call it. With a caterpillar coming up, and eventually there's going to be a chrysalis. And eventually you're going to have to get ooey and gross and disgusting and break inside the chrysalis, and that's the recovery part. But eventually you're going to come out of there and you're going to find your wings and you're going to become the beautiful butterfly that you are meant to be, and life is going to be a whole lot different. So hang on tight, trust the process, get a good support system, get a good therapist, and don't be afraid because there's light on the other side.
Absolutely. Well said. Oh, I almost got a tear off of that one.
Aww.
The butterfly.
You're
all right, guys.
Butterfly, James.
I'm a butterfly, beautiful butterfly. All right, guys. See you at 5:00 next week. We're gonna pick up part 2, 5 through 8, and we'll have some story times as well. So we'll see you then.
And now we have to turn off like 12 gadgets.
30 gadgets. So
thanks,
see y'all later.
everybody.
All right, bye. That was the best one yet.